Hello, my name is Barbara Burdick. I'm involved with an organization called DAWN. DAWN stands for Disabled Women's Network of Canada. I'm the Vice President and I'm involved with advocacy. My sphere is specifically with deaf and disabled women and the issues that they face across Canada. Now I wish to address the shelter system. There are also significant access issues in this situation because we do not experience good, consistent accessibility in women's shelters for women with disabilities or deaf women. We need to focus on changing this. There are very few shelters that have access for people who are deaf. Almost none. When a deaf woman needs to access a shelter, they likely will be going at the last minute and there are rarely interpreters available. They likely will not have a room set up with signal lights for doorbells or baby criers so that a deaf woman would know someone was at the door or that their baby was crying. It is rare to find a shelter that has some of this level of accessibility. Shelters that completely meet our needs are non-existent. Now, our chief concern at present is that deaf women will stay in violently abusive settings rather than go to a shelter where there is no access, where staff are at a loss about how to communicate with them and they are further isolated. They are often entering this environment in shock. They are unable to write or communicate because they are so overwhelmed that they are unable to figure out how to communicate adequately in their second, third, or fourth language. This creates barriers. It would be best if staff brought in an interpreter immediately because the interpreter would facilitate the process, raising the level of comfort, not only for the deaf woman seeking help, but for the staff who are interacting with her. Instead of having to deal with all of those obstacles and communication breakdown, it would be optimum to remove them to facilitate service delivery. Internet is another issue. We need access to the internet where we can seek information about where we will move and find safe havens where we can stay for a few months. Currently, the short timelines regulated by policy for shelter stays pose another barrier for people who are fleeing abuse. Trying to find accessible places for communication, texting to find addresses, being able to contact prospective landlords and medical staff and other people in the community that provide services are a few of the challenges. The barriers seem to be endless. Communication is always an issue. Do you think staff in many of these environments are knowledgeable about deaf people and their culture? Do you think they're ready to interact and facilitate communication and provide service? No, they need training. Who will provide the workshops and other necessary training? This is why we're asking the federal government to provide the necessary funds for this purpose. Then, emergency interpreting services would be in place to facilitate communication on a moment's notice. Educational workshops for shelter clients need to be ready with interpreters as they are needed to help clients develop self-esteem and prepare them to live on their own in the community. Services need to be developed so that if someone is dealing with partner abuse and has been in a controlling, belittling situation, they can learn how to make that first step in safety and what process they will need to follow. This is crucial. Shelters should have an emergency system in place to contact interpreters. They should also have the lighting systems on hand for alerting deaf people and should also have webcam systems that can be tied into remote interpreting services. The necessary training should be in place, ready to be provided. All workshops should be accessible with interpreting available so that deaf women fleeing violence feel comfortable and safe. They should not have to deal with mounting frustration, but be able to be in an environment where they can relax and be ready to learn what they need to. So I want to say to the federal government, the time is now to provide support, not some uncertain time in the future. The time is now to work collaboratively. We need to start making the steps forward to reach our goal of resolving these issues. It's not going to happen overnight, but we need to get the process underway. Deaf women and deaf organizations are in support of this. They have been advocating for this. Workshops and accessible shelters for deaf women are crucial. Thank you.